Every week we get closer and closer to having the Lions in the top 10. And then chaos will truly reign. Rossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Here is another week of trying to figure it all out. Grossi, and today we are going to be breaking down the top 10 teams heading into week 12 of the NFL. We got 3 games coming up on Thanksgiving and a whole lot of question marks. You had teams like the Giants lose, the 49ers taking control of the division, the Titans winning against the Green Bay Packers, the Vikings getting blown out, which was my favorite part of this week. And so we're going to try to sift through all of this craziness. And before we get to the top 10, I want to do an honorable mention to one Wildflower. That's right. The Washington Commanders finding ways to win games, even though this one was a bit easier because they were playing the Texans. But the Commanders might find themselves in a playoff position sooner rather than later. The rest of their schedule is not terribly difficult in the foreseeable future. And who knows, Wildflower may be taking over a Power Rankings episode if he makes it on there. So Wildflower, this one's for you.
Oh, thanks.
So starting off with number 10, I originally was going to put the Patriots in here because their defense is so good and they won against the Jets and they're not in last place in the East, but their offense is also kind of poop. So because of that, I'm actually going to put the Cincinnati Bengals here. That's right, kitty goes meow, you're back in the top 10. And I know a lot of Bengals fans will be very upset about this because it seems that every single time I put the Bengals in the top 10, they lose the following week. So if that's the case, I'm so sorry. But the Bengals getting it done against the Pittsburgh Steelers, doing just enough. Looking at you, P. Ryan, who had an absolutely phenomenal day. Joe Burrow now has over 10,000 passing yards. And the Bengals, I've just wanted to see consistency out of them. They've had this like win-loss thing going on. And here they were able to beat a division rival, which we all know can be very difficult. Look at the Chiefs. They struggle with the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. And so the Bengals, you've done enough now. You made it into the top 10. Let's hope you can stay there. Number 9, you got the Tennessee Titans. Getting the W on Thursday night on a short week against the Green Bay Packers. And listen, their game plan was not too complicated. It was give the ball to Derrick Henry, have long sustained drives. That was about it. The Packers defense just could not keep up with it. Derrick Henry freaking throwing touchdowns on the Packers. Austin Hooper had a nice night. Ryan Tannehill had an efficient night. And their offense did enough to get it done. They scored the most points that they had all year against the Packers. Yes, that hurt to say. And their defense continues to be really good. I know they're dealing with a bunch of injuries right now, but they are going to win their division. They've already swept the Colts this year. And who knows, maybe the Titans will be one of those underdog teams who kind of fly under the radar and wind up making some trouble in the playoffs. So right now, Titans, you're at number 9. And why couldn't you just let us beat you?
I thought we were friends.
Number 8, you got the San Francisco 49ers coming off a big win on Monday Night Football against the Arizona Cardinals. And what I wanted to see from the 49ers, I finally got. They have so many weapons, and I can't tell you how many times I'm watching the 49ers, and I'm falling asleep. They're boring. They're winning, but they're boring. And you think with Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, they would be doing a bit more. Well, oh boy, those pieces came alive against the Cardinals. They ran the ball so efficiently against them, whether it was Christian McCaffrey or it was Elijah Mitchell, absolutely gashed them on the ground. Jimmy Garoppolo tied his career high through 4 touchdowns against them and didn't really have to do anything flashy, was just hitting like these crossing routes, was just dumping it off, and it was working. You really saw the skill players shine on Monday night, and this was the kind of 49ers team that could get very dangerous come playoff time. Their defense has been phenomenal so far, and they are shutting out teams in the second half. So the 49ers, they make the top 10. They take the Seahawks spot, who are on a bye. They are now the number 1 team in the NFC West. And who knows, you might have some 49ers magic in the playoffs once again. But at least they won't beat the Packers. Wait, it's because we won't be there. Number 7, you got the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are a weird team right now. They've won 4 straight games, and I thought they would absolutely obliterate the Carolina Panthers, but they did not. Instead, they struggled to score at all. It was a 3-0, then 3-3 game until the fourth quarter, where the Ravens were finally able to get in the end zone and score 10 more points. That offense was completely and totally stagnant, had nothing going on, but their defense, which has recently gotten healthier, looked real good against the Carolina Panthers, who are not a good football team. It's going to come down between the Ravens and the Bengals and who's going to win that division, and I think there's so much inconsistency and unevenness. The Ravens should still be the favorites to win it. You do have to wonder when the Bengals get Jamar Chase back, how explosive that offense can be. But right now, the Ravens are sitting atop the division. They've won 4 straight games. And Lamar Jackson probably didn't get an extra $10 million on his contract for this upcoming offseason, but they did enough to win. Number 6, getting knocked out of the top 5, you got the purple incarnation of Satan, the Minnesota Vikings. And Vikings, I just have one question for you.
What happened?
The Vikings getting blown out 40-3 against the Dallas Cowboys, who the Green Bay Packers beat last week, in an absolute shellacking, an embarrassment, a disgraceful game.
I just watched a little bit of this on television. It's a disgrace to our country.
And I know a lot of people are putting it on Kirk Cousins, and listen, he did not play well, but you gotta look at that offensive line. Kirk Cousins had 0 time to breathe on Sunday. And listen, the guy got sacked 7 times, which beat his career high of being sacked 6 times. It was basically the offensive line of old with the Minnesota Vikings, who were constantly letting Kirk Cousins die back there. And so this is a rough game for the Vikings. A lot of critics will say, well, this is the Vikings we were coming to expect, that they were barely getting by these teams. They didn't really look good. It was luck. And I'm not ready to jump aboard that bandwagon. While I would love to see the Vikings ship light on fire and just sink in the harbor, they still beat a team like the Bills. They still got a whole bunch of wins, and they're an 8-2 football team and are likely still to win their division, unless the Lions take it from them. God, what world am I living in? So this game might be a little bit of a reality check for them. Their defense struggled, but then again, the offense barely had the ball for the Vikings, so they just kept putting their defense out there. So a rough game for the Minnesota Vikings. We'll see how they play against another good defense on Thursday night against the Patriots. And if all goes well, they won't be in the top 10 next week. Number 5, you got the Buffalo Bills. Bills going up against the Browns this week had a weird and tough first half. It was a close game. Then they played good football. Josh Allen looked back to form. Stephon Diggs got involved. The running game got involved with Singletary and Cook, and their defense kind of picked it up, looking at you, Matt Milano, able to put that game away against the Browns. And the Bills, they're kind of going through some growing pains right now. Beginning of the season, they looked absolutely unstoppable. Since the second half of the Packers game, looking a little bit more vulnerable. They, of course, then lost to the Jets, they lost to the Vikings, and then they struggled in this first half. And now I understand they have a lot of injuries, including Josh Allen, who's trying to fight through an injury right now. And I think the Bills were still going to find their way. They aren't first in their division anymore. They're in a stacked East division in which every single team has a winning record. That's in both East divisions, by the way. So the rest of the season's not going to be a walk in the park. The Chiefs are ahead of them, even though the Bills do have a tiebreaker over them. But we'll see how the Bills kind of rebound for the rest of the season. They are going to have to finish strong to leave some satisfied, but I have no doubt they'll get the job done.
That's what she said.
Number 4, you got the Dallas Cowboys working their way up after an embarrassing loss. Yeah, that's true. Against the Green Bay Packers last week, they put on a clinic. Dak Prescott looking good. Tony Pollard looking amazing. Zeke fighting and getting some tutties. They were firing on all cylinders on offense, and then that defense, good God. Micah Parsons is that guy. Their defense absolutely obliterated the Minnesota Vikings, like I talked about, had 7 sacks, and Justin Jefferson was kept to one of his quietest days that he's had in his entire career. The Cowboys looked like a very complete football team, which spells trouble for the Giants, who they are playing on Thursday on Thanksgiving. It'll be interesting to see how that game sorts itself out. But right now, with an offensive and defensive performance like that, the Cowboys make their way into the top 5. Number 3, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles losing to the Commanders. They lost their first game of the season last week. This week, we're in a bit of trouble against the Indianapolis Colts and the living god Jeff Saturday, but we're able to come away with a W, scoring with about 90 seconds left in the fourth quarter, thanks to Jalen Hurts scrambling it in. And Eagles fans had to breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief here. Now, is the world falling apart for the Eagles? No. Plus, their 2 defensive pickups that they just got, they got half a sack each on the same play. Looking at Joseph and Sue, and they were just kind of scrambling, trying to fix their run defense, which was not really that great. Their offense is good, but they were going up against a solid defense in the Indianapolis Colts. And this was a bit of a trap game for them. They were able to come away with the W, which is all that matters. It's not going to quiet down any of the critics who are calling them frauds, but they're playing the Packers on Sunday night, and we'll see how that goes. Number 2, you got the Miami Dolphins on a bye this week, just getting healthier and healthier. The Dolphins, I think, are just one of the best teams in the league. Their offense is absolutely insane. Their one weak point is their defense, which gives me a little bit of concern, but they make up for it because they could just put up a ton of points. Tua, Waddle, Jeff Wilson, Mostert. Oh, and yeah, Tyreek Hill. Their offense can do just about anything. And don't even forget about guys like Gesicki. I'm really curious to see how the Dolphins are going to play against the Bills in December. We're getting closer and closer to December football, and I know that they are chomping at the bit to face them once again. So right now, the Dolphins stay at number 2. We'll see how they play this week against the Texans. Sorry, Texans, you're going to die. But right now, they're the second best team in the league. And finally, number 1, to no surprise, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs taking care of business against the LA Chargers, who actually looked pretty good. Mike Williams came back for 5 seconds before getting hurt again. Keenan Allen returned, and Justin Herbert actually had a really good game. But the thing that really picked up for me was the Chiefs' actual dedication to the run. Isaiah Pacheco absolutely demolished the Chargers' run defense. And Patrick Mahomes, the Mahomes magic is real. It's fitting that the Fonz was at that game because they both have the magic touch. What he is able to do on the field is infuriating to watch, especially when you have a struggling offense. Oh yeah, and Travis Kelce had 3 touchdowns on the evening. He should be in talks for one of the greatest tight ends of all time. The Chiefs' offense is basically unstoppable. Their defense is definitely their weak point, though they were able to get after Justin Herbert, but they do allow points, and that is what teams are going to have to take advantage of come playoff time. But the way the Chiefs are playing, it looks like they're going to be playing any playoff game they do in Arrowhead, which is a major advantage. And right now, the Chiefs are the number 1 team in the NFL. So to recap, at number 1, you got the Chiefs, 2, the Dolphins, 3, the Eagles, 4, the Cowboys, 5, the Bills, 6, the Vikings, 7, the Ravens, 8, the 49ers, 9, the Titans, and 10, the Bengals. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think teams like the Patriots, the Seahawks, or the Commanders deserve to be on this list? Or even the Giants? Let me know what you think. You can always find me at TomGrassiComedy.com or TomGrassiComedy, all social media you see down below. Check out Patcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrassiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grassi. And as always, go Pack Go.